Good morning. Good morning. It's Monday today. It's a beautiful day. Like super, super gorgeous. And I'm going to go for a walk. And we're going to talk. Wow, there's not a cloud in the sky. So, yeah. Going to go for a little walk. I started doing this a couple weeks ago. Not even that long ago. Just trying to get out of the house ASAP, get moving, especially since I otherwise end up sitting on my butt all day. And it really helps. It really makes me feel good. It's nice to get the fresh air, nice to get the sunshine if it's around. Michael Ashcroft mentioned doing this as well recently. And yeah, if you don't, or whoever's listening to this doesn't do that, I highly, highly recommend it. So, yeah, enough of that. What I want to do today is a conversation on your video, Plans Are Worthless. Planning is priceless. So let's just get into it, huh?
Hey friends, it's now 6 a.m. and I haven't slept all night, and this is my life now. And I just wanted to make a video before I go to bed. And I have been spending the past few hours sitting around coming up with YouTube content ideas. I'm at about 70 plus ideas, and it's giving me some sense of what I will be doing. But a thing that I got a funny comment, so I was sharing these ideas on Twitter, and even before I shared it, I tweeted saying that I'm gonna plan 200 videos and then I'm gonna ignore it. And then someone asked me for like an example of what's your template for thinking about these things, what's your process, how do you structure it, and like it felt dismissive to tell the truth, which is that I just improvise everything.
Uh-oh. No.
Which isn't to say that I have no structure whatsoever.
I had a thought, but I'm going to let you keep going.
But I allow my structures to emerge organically from trial and error and from habit and from practice. A couple of reasons why I do this. Part of it is just what works best for me based on my experience and my personality type and my background and experience. I'm saying experience again. But, I don't know if it will work for everybody. Some people might be better off making a plan and sticking to it. But for me, plans are worthless, but planning is priceless. What I mean by that is that, the act of planning, the act of sitting down and making a plan is something that challenges me to make sense of the landscape of whatever it is that I'm working with. So, for example, when I'm listing out content ideas I'm trying to look at my screen to see if I can see it, but I can't really see it. No, it's a different window. Anyway, the valuable thing that planning does for me is that it gets me to map out the landscape that I'm going to be operating in, and maybe not the full landscape, right? Because it's a map, and all maps are imperfect representations of the territory. But, before you make an explicit map, the implicit map that you have in your head might be pretty small, and you may not realize this. You may not realize this until you attempt to make a bigger, proper map. But then, each new way of seeing becomes a new set of blinders, right? So what expands your view in one sense, after a while, it starts to cloud your vision. I think that line might be from Wittgenstein. I'm not sure. I wrote it down a long time ago in my notes somewhere and it just stuck with me. That each new way of seeing things becomes limiting because, initially it's a whole new lens to make sense of things, and then it becomes like the only way you see things, and then you miss things and you don't realize why you're missing them. So what I am learning to do, and I'm trying to do, is to make lists of ideas, and the point of that is to jog my subconscious, right? To work my subconscious, to get my mind thinking about things and perceiving things that I don't even realize that I am perceiving or not perceiving.
Okay. This is really good, and I could easily just keep listening. But I do want to add some stuff. So one thing is, in no particular order. So one thing I'm reminded of is how, as a copywriter, especially in the beginning, one of the things that is advised that you do, or sometimes is assigned you to do, is to just write like 100 headlines for a sales page, or for whatever it is you're doing. You know, write 50, write 100. And there, you know, the value of that is not so that you can go back and like analyze every single one of them to find the best one, but it just like gets you writing and gets you realizing that it just forces you to iterate. So because you have to do so many of them, you are also forced to encounter all of the variety of ways that you could approach a headline, which you probably would not have been able to consider if you were just like, okay, I'm going to sit down and write one perfect headline. Right? So in a similar way, it like you're saying, forces you to get a lay of the land, or like a lay of the possibilities. And so just in doing it, you probably, by the time you're done, have a sense of like which ones are at least close. So there's that. And then I'm also reminded, because you were talking about maps, or landscapes rather, that I really, really love maps, and probably even more than maps though, is I just love studying landscapes. You know, like when I'm in a plane, it's flying across the country, like just one thing I can't help myself from doing is always just looking out the window, looking at the landscape. I will always then like pull up, I'll have like an app for the airline, and so I can then look and see where exactly the plane is over the country map, and then I'll take a screenshot of that, because I just love to see, okay, that's what this part of the country looks like from above. Like, oh, there's that mountain range, there's that lake, there's that river, whatever, and just get a mental picture of that. I absolutely love doing that. Or then, like, if I've been somewhere and then I'm flying over and I'm like, oh shit, I think this is near where I've been, and then I'll be able to like triangulate it. You'd be like, oh no, I know that mountain, I know that lake, that town looks familiar. Oh shit, I've been right there, from the plane. That's always fun. Similarly, just I love, going on Google Maps and zooming in on a city or wherever, and just sort of scoping out how the whole city works, street viewing it, all sorts of stuff like that. And I love doing that. And yet, when it comes to actually going places, I hate making routes. I hate planning my routes. I much prefer to just wander around sort of spontaneously and explore. So, yeah, just what you're talking about made me think of that in the sense of like, it's extremely fun and extremely, I don't know, it's not even for a practical purpose for me to get a lay of the land, but then when you actually come to trying to go somewhere, You just sort of wing it. But because you are so familiar with the landscape, you can wing it in a really intelligent way. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. That was kind of a long interlude, but I hope you forgive me.
Right, so that it is getting inside my head, or getting into my body, however you want to think about it, right?
Oh, wow, there's
and so,
dolphins today.
while I was listing out the YouTube videos that I want to make, I listed out a bunch of stuff about Singapore, I listed out a bunch of stuff that will be video essays that I'm really excited about, but, it's kind of more ambitious, and it's going to be more edited, and there'll be visuals and everything. It's going to be exciting, you're going to see. But that will take some time. And I'm still going to do these 10-minute videos every day. Anyway, it's a bunch of stuff about romance and dating and sex and relationships. There's a bunch of stuff about scenes and peopling. There's a bunch of stuff about ADHD. What I'm trying to do is so I might start generating ideas based on some topic, but I kind of explicitly don't want to get shoehorned or pigeonholed into any one topic, which I know as a marketing guy, and I'm going to make a bunch of videos about marketing as well, but I know as a marketing guy that being so broad and doing so many things at once, it kind of slows down your growth, because the fastest way to grow is, and I mean by growth I mean subscribers, right? The fastest way to grow subscribers is to pick a niche, right, and dominate it, right? Really cover everything in that niche. So be the Singapore vlogger and vlog for 3 months about everything about Singapore. I could do that, but I don't really want to, because I also know from experience that if you do that, it then becomes very difficult to escape that niche that you've carved out for yourself, where you have a large audience, but the audience has come to expect that kind of content from you, and I don't want that. I don't want to be shut into a box of audience expectations. And so,
right. I mean, one of the tricks with that is not to step into something entirely different, but just to widen the frame of what you're talking about. Not that you probably don't know this kind of stuff. It's helpful for me when doing this to say things like that. I don't mean to mansplain shit. It's more just to jog my own memory about what I know conceptually and technically with regards to marketing. So, yeah, forgive me for seeming like I'm mansplaining.
I want to make sure that I'm cycling through all of my interests. And at the same time, the reason I come up with these kind of central notes of things that are recurring interests, so I'm probably going to do, I'm going to do one Singapore video every week, one ADHD video every week, one thing about relationships every week, so I might make this schedule a little bit more, visible, a little bit more public facing. I might not, but the important thing is that the structure kind of consolidates in my head, and then I don't want to think about it. I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to obsess about it. I want to deviate from it when appropriate and necessary, right? So it's kind of, I guess you could maybe say it's like a jazzy approach, like an improvisational kind of approach. So, you don't want to, I don't want to improvise around the same spot forever. So planning helps me think about other spots I could go to, and so I have these kind of broad strokes that I can follow, but I don't want to plan the trip so specifically that I don't have room for excitement, I don't have room for surprise, I don't have room for delight, right? I want to be having fun. I want to not know what I'm going to do next, and at the same time I don't want to feel overwhelmed and scared not knowing what I'm going to be doing next, right? So it seems like a paradox, but it's not. There's like a, it's a paradox that can be navigated skillfully.
Having done a fair bit of improv, I will say that that's one of the most exciting feelings you can have. It's scary to get there, but once you're there, it's fucking amazing. One of the definitely peak peak experience type of thing.
It's like, sometimes I call this chaos surfing, right? So there's chaos, and you want to surf it like surfing a wave. You're never perfectly balanced.
Ironically, there are no surfers today, which is super rare.
You're never kind of stable and secure. It's always kind of a balancing act. But you can, reach a certain flow and a certain zen, and that is what I'm aspiring to. I'm looking at my YouTube channel from now, and it says books, gaming, guitar, nerding out. I might rephrase that. I might talk about the ADHD and I don't know. I got to think about it. I do know I want to do some Twitch stuff. I do know I haven't done a book review in a while, so I'll probably do that again. I haven't read books in a while. I've been editing blog posts and working on my ebook. Oh yeah, so I'm probably going to do a bunch of videos about my next ebook, so that it kind of...
See, what was that right there? Just like, you're like, blah, 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 blah. Like that, like totally disregarding the content of what you said. That, I think, is kind of like what you're talking about in other videos, specifically the thinking by talking one, right? Where you just found a wave, right? Like you just caught a wave. You were kind of like waiting, and then suddenly here's a swell, and then you jumped on it, and you're like, oh, and then you wrote it. Now you're writing it.
It partially to challenge me to work on the book, right? So talking about what's in the book kind of triggers ideas for what should be in the book, and it's a kind of virtuous cycle. That's a good thing. But yeah, I have come to learn that for me, planning is invaluable, but the plans themselves are not. And that was something that I think I struggled with when I was younger, like when I was a teenager or whatever. I would sometimes, I think when I was 20, I tried to live this very strict, regimented life for myself to discipline myself. It was an interesting experience. It didn't really work for me, and I don't know if it will or will not work for you. I'm not saying that, if a disciplined, structured process is working for you, keep it. I don't want to tell people what to do or what not to do. And yeah, it's really just in case you were wondering if it's possible to get the benefits of planning without kind of being rigid about your plans, I want to say yes. There's something about taking notes and rehearsing, right? It's worth rehearsing and then ditching the script. Like you rehearse with the script and then you ditch the script and you improvise. Some of the script will stay with you. And the cool thing about this kind of pattern of improvisation is that over time you develop a sensitivity to what was most important about the plan, what was most critical and interesting and valuable about the plan. And that develops your taste. And that also makes you better at improvising on the fly. And that means that if you have to come up with something on the spot, you start with the most valuable and interesting things, which is a very useful skill set to have. And if you have ADHD like me, and you lose the plan, you forget the plan, whatever, like you're still fine. You can still survive. You can still figure it out. Done.
Sweet. Well, so one thing I think it would be valuable to add in regards to the whole planning and rigidity thing is that when I was in my early 20s, like the exact same time you're talking about, I was exactly the same way. I was so strict about planning and scheduling. I would try to wake up at 5 a.m. and I had a checklist of exactly what I'd do. Wake up at 5 a.m., drink a glass of water, take a 5-minute freezing cold shower, get out, make coffee, and then instantly start doing XYZ type of work. And then I would have these schedules for my day, which looking back are just freaking insanity, and everyone around me thought they were at the time. I just couldn't see it. Where I was just I would not leave a fucking minute free for anything. It'd be study this for 3 hours, and then eat lunch for 25 minutes, and then study this other thing for 2 hours, and then read for an hour, and then practice XYZ skill for 2 more hours, and then like it was literally from the fucking moment I got out of bed all the way until sleeping. Yeah, it was fucking miserable. I was like my own little Hitler inside. And part of the reason I wanted to share that is just that in the years since then, you know, in the second half of my 20s, I really swung the other way because I was so tired of that. And so I am coming back into a middle place, but a lot of my period of like, you know, when I started doing improv and things like this, when I started foregoing schedules and whatnot, a lot of it was reactive because I just hated what I had been doing, and I was so sick of how I had been approaching my life and my time. I didn't want to do anything close to that. So there definitely is a balance, you know. Like one extreme to the other is not necessarily growth. But I'm not saying that that's what you are doing. I highly doubt it, but that's how it was for me. Yeah. There was something else that I thought of just at the end there. Is it going to come back to me? I guess not. That was a cool one. I'll talk to you next time.